Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Tasty Tidbits podcast. Get ready to receive rich, well-seasoned, and tasteful tidbits to transform your life. Each week, Dr. Tiffany comes to you with inspirational encouragement and thought-provoking interviews to help revolutionize your walk with God. Are you hungry for more of His presence? Then get ready. And now, your host, author, intuitive life coach, and pastor, Dr. Tiffany Watkins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Tasty Tidbits. I am your host, Dr. Tiffany Watkins, and I'm so excited to have you here on another episode. And today we're going to be talking about something that I think is very important, especially for women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, but also for anyone that may be listening. And that's talking about the mindset and ways to achieve our goals without the stress spiral. And so I want to talk to you about our guest today before we get started, Dr. Sue. Dr. Sue is a medical doctor. She is a mother and she is a wife, a friend, and a midlife woman walking with the wild, radiant path of becoming who she's truly to be. Dr. Sue is a holistic pediatrician and a midlife transformation expert who helps women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s to navigate hormones, heartbreak, and healing so they can stop settling and start living with joy. And so thank you so much for being a part of the podcast, Dr. Sue. How are you today?
I'm awesome. Thank you for having me here today, Dr. Tiffany. Just love your work and what you're up to.
Yes, and I am just honored to be able to have you on today to talk to our listeners today, because I think what we're going to talk about, which is the mindset, is something that we all deal with, and we have to be able to have control over our mindset, because it affects things that we do on a daily basis. It affects if we're successful. It affects if we're depressed. It affects everything from our families into everything. And so we're talking about that and how we can achieve our goals without a stress spiral. So when you think about goal settings, what is the first common mistake that often leads people in the stress spiral? And how can they avoid it?
I think one of the most common ones I see, especially in myself, is like strangling the goal, right? Like so much trying to control it that it cannot breathe. And I've caught myself even recently doing that again. So it's like our need for control. We all have a need for control, to feel some level of certainty. And I feel like that is really driven primarily from a place of fear, right? Like we're fear that we're going to be behind, or we're not going to make it in time, or that we're not enough, or that, we need to get there faster. We need to get there yesterday.
Yes.
And so I feel like all of this fear really drives us to try to control the situation. And like the way I visualize it is just kind of squeezing it to death, or like white knuckling it, kind of like when you're on a bike. Like I do a lot of cycling on a bike. So when you're cycling on a bike, the instructor one time said, like, just release your hands, because you just tend to like put so much pressure into the hands, and that's all wasted energy, right? It's not transferring into your legs. It's not helping you pedal any faster or further. It's just this energy that you're sending into these handlebars that are going nowhere. And so I started thinking about that. I was like, wow, that is so true about how I can just, and I see a lot of people, we just try to white knuckle it through. And it's very much fear-based. So like, just release the grip, right? And to me, that's all about trusting the process, coming from a place of love, knowing that you're moving in divine time, right? So yeah, that's probably one of the most common things I see in myself and others, is just like this need to control it.
And Dr. Sue, how do we get to that point of where you stop the fear, so that you're able to, really just be free?
And I think you don't stop the fear. So like going back to cycling, I did a really hard bicycle race. That was like 7 miles ascending somehow so many thousands of feet, I think 4,000 or something. It was crazy. And I was so scared, Dr. Tiffany. Like the closer the race got, I was just like so fearful. And I decided, you know what? Like, I'm not supposed to get rid of fear. Like I can feel the fear and flow with faith. That became my mantra. Feel the fear and flow with faith anyways, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, to me, we don't get rid of it. Like, for me, I just acknowledge it. It's there. It's normal to feel that way. And also, like, we can still like move forward with faith.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much because, moving forward in faith, knowing that you're able to accomplish that, and just being
Mm.
able to step out in that, you might know what's going to happen in the end, but at least you tried. At least you didn't sit back and say, well, I wish I could have done it, or I wish I had have done it, but at least you got in there and you were able to do it. And I think that's what we have to do, like you said, which is so key, is to just, go in faith and just make sure that when you do it, you put all into it, and then whether it's the turnout that you desire, at least you completed it.
I would say that would be very true for this race, Tiffany.
Yes, yes,
So my
yes.
goal, my goal for this race, which I was initially training for 1 year, and when we got to the mountain base on year one to do the race day, the race got canceled because there was hurricane force winds at the top of the mountain. And I thought, this mom is not going up that mountain. I am so out of here. I mean, they canceled the race, so we didn't have a choice, and I was really thankful about that. So I came back the next year with my husband. He had been training like 3 years. I was training about almost 2 years. And it was not like my goal. I kept saying, my goal is to cross the finish line on the bike, like cross the finish line on the bike, cross the finish line on the bike. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to stay on the bike the whole time, because it's so steep that you have to you have to like stand up and like your legs stand still. And
Mm-hmm,
you're like
mm-hmm.
gonna fall over. So the race did it. The goal happened. I crossed the finish line on my bike, but everything in between there of when I started the race and when I ended the race was nothing I ever expected. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's with a lot of things that we, embark upon. You don't expect a whole lot of things in the process. You just don't. Yes, and so even talking about that, keeping calm and focus while you're pursuing your goals, you have some strategies that can help people to keep calm and stay focused while pursuing their goals. Just talk a little bit about that, and
Mm.
which one really has personally made the biggest difference for you.
Well, I think when it comes to mindset, I feel like you were saying, it controls so many things. And to me, primarily what I really learned about our mindset is that we're creating our emotion through our mindset. Like we are,
Mm,
by what we focus on, right?
mm-hmm,
Like, are we focusing on what we have versus what we don't have? Are we
mm-hmm,
focusing on what we can control versus what we can't control? Are we focused on, the present moment? Are we worried about the past, or, worried, like regretting the past, or worried about the future, right? Are we
mm-hmm,
focused on what we already have or what's missing, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And depending on where our focus is and the meaning that we're creating from the experience that we're living through at the moment, right? We shoot out an emotion.
mm-hmm.
And so whenever, like, even on that hill, I could tell, even on this race, I could tell you there were moments where I was focused on, like, wow, I am winning. That person just got off their bike on mile one and I'm still going up. Okay. Right. And then there was times where my mindset did go. Like, one of them was I was I was off my bike again. I had to get on and off this bike so many times, Dr. Tiffany. And to me, like, I was creating this meaning that I wasn't having a successful race because I had to get
Mm,
on and off the bike so many times, right?
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
this older man, I mean, this race, it's very cool. It's primarily men and some women thrown in there. But this older man, he was so cute. He was biking past me. So, I mean, he came from behind me and then just slowly was passing me. Like, ever since he goes, isn't it great, the view from off your, isn't it great to walk? Like, he just changed the whole perspective. He's like, isn't it
Mm.
a beautiful day? Isn't it wonderful to get off your bike? And I was like, yeah, it is kind of wonderful to get off your bike.
Yes.
And so he shifted the meaning for me. I was
Mm-hmm.
saying, like, I'm failing at this race because I'm getting on and off the bike. I should be
Mm-hmm.
stronger. I should have trained harder. I wish I had a different body. Like literally, I was like, could I lose? Like, I don't know if I ate the right way or lost so many pounds. I just literally don't know if I have the right body to stay on that bike. Anyways, I was saying all these things and he's like, isn't that great? So he shifted my mindset. So to me, the thing that I always go back to time and time again with, anytime I'm having like a disempowering emotion, nothing's wrong with that. Like acknowledge the emotion is there and then go back. Like, what am I focusing on? What meaning am I creating? And also like physiology, like how are you holding your body? Like, what are you doing? Because these
Mm-hmm.
patterns of emotion and mindset, when we're overwhelmed, we're usually, well, I'm like this. I don't know what you are. I always like put my hand on my head. I'm just like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
depressed is usually down. So even if you just put your shoulders back and took some couple deep breaths and just had a laugh at yourself that you just focused on what you don't have versus what you do have, you can really shift. And so that's really one of my favorite tools that I go back to time and time again. I catch myself all the time.
Yeah, and while you were talking about that, I'm like, we all carry that in somewhere in our bodies, because
Mm-hmm.
for me, every time I go to get a massage, they're like, your shoulders is extremely tight. What do you do? And I realized that, that's where I was carrying it within my
Mm-hmm.
shoulders. And I also recognize sometimes, I don't breathe right. And I think a lot of us don't. You don't take the time to breathe. When you get stressed, I hold my breath a lot. You have to take the time to be able to breathe, because that does affect your body as well. So that is good what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying. We have to kind of recognize those triggers in order to reset or have a different look at things. And so when he came by and gave you that new perspective, it makes you look at it, everything. They have that saying, make lemonade out of lemons. You can really just change, if you could change your thought pattern, even when it's negative. Like you said, don't. And I love what you said also, you don't deny that there's a problem
Mm-hmm.
there or an emotion there, because I think a lot of times when we're trying to be perfect or we're trying to, keep up an image or whatever it is, we deny the emotion. And that can be very unhealthy for us, can it, Dr. Sue?
Yeah, truly, truly. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts. I had one of my friends says she just takes fear like a little purse and just tucks it right under her arm like that. She's like, Fear, just come along here. I'm gonna tuck you there. And then she's just like, okay, here we go, and starts moving forward again. So I think whatever image works well for you, like also dancing with fear. I've had that analogy given to me. Like instead of like a lot of times we're like crouching down or trying to hide away, it's like, what if you just start, dancing with fear and having a good time with it? To me, I just say the mantra, I feel fear and I flow with faith anyways. Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. So, and then, I want to ask, when we're balancing, say we have, so many things that we want to accomplish in life and so many things that
Mm-hmm.
we want to do. And especially with women, especially, in this day and time, it wasn't as fast paced as it is now,
Yeah.
and we're trying to accomplish more, complete more things. We check one thing off the list and then we're going to the next. And we never really take time often to really celebrate the wins, before we're going on to the next thing after that. And so, how can we balance urgency with trying to go to the next thing and just go to the next thing, but yet be patient, so that we can make a steady progress without burning out?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, again, I guess since we're on this biking analogy, I'll go back to the
I
biking
love it.
analogy.
Yes.
I feel like for me, it's about just getting on the bike every day, like getting on the bike
Mm-hmm.
and moving the pedals forward. Some days, you're going to go in a sprint and you're going to get something done really quickly, right? But most of the time, it's just like you're going to be hitting in this steady pace. And, patience, wow, I can say I've
I know.
I've definitely been working on patience. I think for me, the patience thing, what really helps me again is releasing my attachment to the outcome. Like, so
Mm,
if I can release, like I have a goal, I have a vision, I get on my bike, I'm moving towards it, right? I'm getting on it. Some days I have a lot of energy, I get a lot of things done, right? And other days,
mm-hmm.
but I'm just showing up. And like you said, really celebrating the progress, like really taking note of what you have already accomplished rather than always looking in the gap. That's one of my things. I'm always looking at the missing part, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that does not make for a celebratory, enjoying process of getting things done. So getting on the bike, moving, sometimes you sprint, right? You have the energy, you sprint, you celebrate, you celebrate your progress. Especially for me, I have to keep unhooking from the outcome that I'm hoping is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I just got to keep unattaching myself to it because I
Mm-hmm.
think God works in miraculous ways. And sometimes gifts come in fascinating packages. And sometimes you have the best of intention and you want this thing and there's a major curveball and it goes this way. Or, in business, like you launch something and then nobody wants it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so you could look at that and be like, what's wrong with me? Or you could just say, I'm getting pivoted in a different way. How do I keep showing up? To me, it's like, just get on the bike, just get the pedals, just move. The pace will change, and keep
Mm-hmm.
unhooking from this predestined, like what you think it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Sue, you said something about unattaching. Help the
Mm-hmm.
listeners just kind of walk them through the process a little bit about how do you unattach yourself?
I think I definitely breathe
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely feel the pain of it. You know what I mean? Like, let's say, one time I worked really hard, Dr. Tiffany, on a program that I thought was going to be amazing, and I
Mm-hmm.
sold this program before and I edited it and I thought I created something even more spectacular. Like, I was just like, this is going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And nobody bought it. And so to me, like how I unhook from that, because that's like, that can take you a bit, to be
Yeah, and
honest.
it makes you like, okay, can I start again? Do I want to start again right now? No.
So I want to say that first, before you unhook, you probably need to process a lot of feelings. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I was really attached to the outcome of being a mom, but yet what I was receiving was miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage. And
Wow.
so first I had to like process my emotion, like I'm pissed, like really angry,
Yeah.
like why is this happening? This is so painful. I wanted something else, right? And I didn't get it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a little kid, like you have your temper tantrum. And I think the more skills and tools you have in your toolbox, like the faster you can stand back up. That's what I've learned. Like when these things happen, how I unhook is because I bring in my support. So like this last time, I can think of when I had to majorly unhook from an attached outcome that I thought I was unhooked from the whole time, but I was not. Was yeah, breath work, like breathing and breath work, meditation,
Mm-hmm.
yoga, journaling, um, and just really letting my emotions flow, sharing with trusted like people that I trust, right? That I
Mm-hmm.
knew would be able to hold me. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to like fix the problem. They knew they could just witness the soreness, the ouch, the
Mm-hmm.
ache, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, that's really, I feel like it's a process. Unhooking is a process. And you get hooked when you're not neutral to the outcome,
That's good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? That's how you
Mm-hmm.
know you're hooked. If you're not hooked, like you're completely neutral, whether this happens or that happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's kind of like the tell test. Are you neutral? Or are you just like, okay, well, that didn't go my way? Lots of times we are not neutral. Lots of times.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, that is so good because a lot of times we are attached, especially women.
Mm,
Men are too. But and you can help me with this, Dr. Sue. So we're more emotional at times. My mother, when
it
she
can be.
raised my mother, when
Mm,
she raised me, she said, girls are such a challenge, to raise because, we just have so many emotions and, things like that. And so when you have a heart to where you want things to be the way you want them to be, and if you have a heart that's a giving heart, and that say it's for a situation where it's with people and you have an outcome that you expect from individuals and that doesn't happen, then that can be a stain upon the heart. And so now you get into the process of where now your trust is gone and you're no longer able to trust, and it could stunt your growth in your success in achieving other goals because you're staying stuck in a place where we should move beyond. How would you guide listeners to be able to kind of move beyond that?
One of the things that I've learned about being stuck, there's so many ways for us to get stuck. Like we can get stuck just in what I was just saying, like you're stuck and focused on like, or you're stuck in a meaning. Like people get stuck in some crazy meanings from childhood, like, so there's so many ways to get stuck. But one of the ways that I think we do this is we tend to make the thing permanent. Like, let's just take my miscarriages. After I had 3 miscarriages, I could have said, well, I'm never going to have a baby, right? Like that's making it permanent. Pervasive is like, okay, I'm not having a baby successfully yet. And so not only am I never going to have a baby, like this is going to ruin my entire life. That's like, you just smear it across everything. So you make it, permanent, you make it pervasive, like across, it's going to ruin my relationships, it's going to ruin my career, it's going to ruin everything because I can't have the baby, right? And then the third is, what is the third? Oh, you think like you make it personal. Like this has only happened to me. And it's like, no, this has happened to a lot of people. How you're feeling has probably even happened to you before. So I think those ways, that's where we can get really stuck, when we're making it permanent, pervasive, and personal, then we get really, really rigided down. So you want to the way that you kind of flip that is, you rally in on what are you focused on, so again, like if you take a work thing, like I was just sharing, that didn't go how I wanted it to, 0 sales on a product that I made that I thought was pretty amazing. So to flip that, I'd be like, well, this isn't permanent. I mean, this is a one-time happening. This is like what's great about this? What's great about this in that situation is it got me to open up and be like, oh my gosh, I get to go meet the Dr. Tiffany's of the world. Who else is out there doing these things? Like I get to go meet them. So literally because of that is why I'm on this podcast, literally. Like if it wasn't for that, I would probably not be here. It's just so funny, but it's true. It's like, it makes you, if you're open to it, it's not permanent. It's like, what's great about this? What's great about this is I'm growing. What's great about this is I get to pivot. There's another P. I get to pivot. I get to try something different. Right. So I think kind of flipping those things personal, I mean, just watch a documentary, watch any successful person, read a biography, I promise you, whatever pain you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing, someone who has been trying, whatever you're trying to achieve, someone who has achieved that has already gone through what your pain is, right? And really, in terms of like the pervasiveness, it's like, that's where we kind of smear it across everything. You have to really, hone in and remind yourself, like, this is happening in one part of my life. It's not happening in every single part of my life. So, yeah.
That's so good. It's not permanent. That's the one thing that I love what you just said is we can't make it permanent, because there is something on the other side, and not be able to just focus on it being permanent, and I think a part of that, Dr. Sue, and I've just been thinking about that because sometimes I can be hard on myself, is perfectionism, and you have to get rid of that perfectionism in certain areas because perfectionism will cause you to be stunted in your growth as well when you're trying to go forward.
Yeah, there's another P, perfectionism.
Yep. Yes. And so it's just like we have to be able to trust the process, like you said earlier, and be able to step out in faith. And if it does not work, then you can try something else, and you would have never been on the podcast if I had I thought about the many times that I failed, but I was like, but you know what? God closed those doors. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking that, I was supposed to go through this door. I was supposed to walk through this door, and it just slammed in my face. But then I realized later that God closed those doors for me because they were not for me. And I always tell people all the time, what's for you will be for you. So if it doesn't work out, it's like things are working in your favor. So you just have to
Mm-hmm.
go back and, like you say, and pivot and go to the next place where you feel like that you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think also the big part of that, and really what personal development is leaning into curiosity, reopening after you've been hurt, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm really hurting, and also I'm open, to shift my mind. I'm open,
That's
you know,
good.
to the possibilities of what else this can mean, right? Rather than the
Mm-hmm.
meaning that I'm creating currently from it. So yeah, it's a real like open mind, open heart to keep going. But yes, so many doors have opened, Dr. Tiffany, since that quote unquote failure, right? Which is,
Uh-huh.
I think also, I mean, this is kind of Byron Katie's work too. And what I was just sharing about the 3 Ps is, I learned from Tony Robbins, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is that Byron Katie's work, I think, really focuses on like what actually happened. Because
Yes.
we make a whole story out of this whole thing. And when I listen to people, even when when I'm helping them or I'm coaching them, I'm like, are you assuming that or that for a fact? Like that person
Right.
said that to you, or you're
Mm-hmm.
assuming that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Byron Katie's work too is super helpful in that. It's just like, okay, this is what happened. Like, these are the facts. Like, to me, I had 0 sales, I had 0 babies. Like, those were the facts, right? Of those
Mm-hmm.
2 examples that I showed. Everything else was what I was focusing on, the story I was creating around it, everything else, which is
Mm-hmm.
what created the emotion for me. And that's why, 2 people experience the same thing, and yet, one rises to the victor and the other is just sitting here in the mud as a victim, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
really the mindset, because it fuels creates the emotion, and emotion is what fuels us forward or keeps us stuck.
Yeah, that's so good. And I was up here thinking, you just stirring up some things, and I was like, because I had been like, God, I just need you to help me to be
Mm,
focused on the truth, and
mm.
not what I perceive in myself, like you
Oh, that's so
said.
beautiful. That's so
Yes,
beautiful.
because a lot of times, because of our insecurities, or because of what we may fear, or because of, what we may think in our mind, it's a perception that is not actually there. And
Hmm.
so we have to be honest with ourselves. And I'm learning this, you have to be honest with yourself. And when you're dealing with people, you have to really sit back and say, is that, like you said earlier, is this really them? Is this really what's happening? Or is this what you're creating because of something within you?
Hmm.
And I've come across this week. When you ask things, if you ask and you really want it to happen, it'll come to you. And so I was doing that, and a couple of days this week, some things happened. And one thing in my mind, it was saying, this is happening. And then when it unfolded, I began to listen to the individual, and it was like that was nowhere in the picture. And so I got to see, because I didn't open up my mouth, because I didn't go through, I thought the things, but I really tried to step back and look at the situation.
Mm.
I saw that my perception was not right. And we have to be honest with ourselves, and be willing to grow in that process so that we can be better.
Hmm. And
Hmm.
what comes to mind? First of all, I love that shift about God help me focus on what's true. Like that's beautiful. I will take that forward with me forever. So thank you, Dr. Tiffany.
Yes.
Helping me like, and Dr. Tiffany said,
Yes,
because whenever
yes.
I talk about focus, like that's such a beautiful thing. Like, I was always like, ask a better question. Or that's a great question, a great ask, a great prayer. Like, yeah, help me focus. What I was going to say is what I heard you referencing is being still, pausing, creating space to shift your perspective. Like I always
Mm-hmm.
think like I always say the divine is in the details. It's like you slow down enough to actually re-examine what your conception was before,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is one of the things too about goals and going after goals. I always like to say the divine is in the details, and sometimes you have to slow down in order to see the details because
Mm-hmm.
we just tend to react. We just tend to jump. So
Yes.
sometimes for me, when I'm coaching, that means I'm helping the person reread an email, right? Like, okay, let's
Mm-hmm.
actually look at that email again
Yeah.
because all of a
Yeah.
sudden this is triggering out and activating all these things. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
actually see it like this, right? And so let's just read what the email actually says. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I love that. It's just like giving some space and some grace. Like that's what I see. That's beautiful.
And I love that you do that. And this is just even, helping me. And I know it's helping the listeners because go back, like you just simple as go back and reread the email, and even text messages, because we get text messages and somebody may say something through a text message and it was no intention of the way that it was sent, but because of where we may have been or the other individual may have been, it was taken the wrong way. And
Mm-hmm.
so again, you have to pause and take yourself out of that situation because we can ruin a lot of relationships, as far as divine connections in relationships, business connections, because we may have had a wrong perception. And so that's why it's so important for us to be able to step back. Even when we see things as a disappointment, you got to take that pause,
Mm-hmm.
because the pause gets us to examine, okay, did we move in the right timing? Was this the right season? Was it the right timing? you know it wasn't that it wasn't meant to be, but maybe it was for another time, and you can put it on the
Mm-hmm.
back burner and may revisit again. God may have you to revisit it again in the future. He said it didn't go forward because I didn't want it to go forward at this time, but you just put it on this side, and when it's ready to go forward, then it will come forward. But this is what I want you to work on. And so it's again like what you said, it's just taking that pause and really just being quiet. And it's challenging, Dr. Sue, a lot of times to just take that pause
It
and be
is.
quiet, but it's necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also heard you say trust. To me, I always say like trust in the divine timing. Just trust it, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the big picture. I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand why that door closed, or why this baby's not coming right now when I want to get
Mm-hmm.
to. I just get to trust the process, trust in the divine and the divine timing.
I love it. I love it, Dr. Sue. Before we, leave, I wanted to ask one more question. What the listeners may be listening right now. Can you help them and let them know what's a small, immediate change that someone can take today to reduce stress, while keeping their
Mm.
momentum towards their big goal?
Okay. I'm going to share this one because I've gotten such great feedback from people about like, wow, this is really super helpful.
Okay.
So the one that comes to mind, because I feel like you can use it at any point. You can use it not only in goal setting, right, or setting up your day, but you can also use it in a challenging relationship or a challenging experience. Anytime you're kind of like, in a feel like, ugh, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
question is to ask yourself, because right, like when we ask better questions, we create a better story. We create
Mm-hmm.
a better strategy moving forward. So, a better question, and one of the best questions that I've experienced to ask myself is, what would love do? What would
Mm-hmm.
love do?
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, like if your goal, you're moving towards a goal, what would love do? It would take a long rest.
Yes. Yes.
It would take a nap. Love would be like, get to bed, Sue, and go nap a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes, like love, or in a relationship, sometimes what love would do is set boundaries, and say, this is where I end and you begin. This is not okay with me, even though it's okay with you. This is not okay with me. Right. Or sometimes love would forgive. Right. And I think the thing is that, what I believe is we're all in our natural state. We are love. That is our natural state of being, is a loving state. That's why I feel so terrible when we're in these other states, whether it's depressed or frustrated or angry or resentful. That's why it doesn't feel good, because it's not our natural state. Our natural state is a loving state. And so when you ask the question, what would love do? You're activating that part of you that already is that and knows exactly what it would do. People are always like, they're always like, I know what you're going to say, Dr. Sue, you're going to say, what would love do? And I'm like, I know, because you know the answer. As soon as you ask yourself, you know exactly what to do. You do. It's just, are you going to follow it or are you not going to follow it? That's the only question. Because anytime I've asked that question, the person has really allowed themselves to be in a loving state. And if you're not in a loving state, one of the quickest ways is to shift into a loving state. Like, what that means for you is maybe you get to take a bubble bath, maybe you get to go for a walk outside, something that really shifts you, into more of a natural of nature rhythm. Maybe that's listening to some music, but from that loving state, people know the answer. We know the answer of what to do.
That is so good. That is so good. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sue, for being here today. This has truly been a great session, just being able to talk about, we got off a little bit, but I believe it was divine to get off the way we did, because it helped a lot of listeners. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of comments about that, because it's so important for us to be able to pause, step back and evaluate ourselves and operate out of love, like you were saying.
Out of love.
We have to. And I'm learning that, because love always wins, it always wins. And so I truly believe that with all my heart. But I'm truly excited to have you here today. And thank you for being a part today. Let the listeners know what you're up to now and how they can get in contact with you.
Yes. So I'm up to coaching. I love group coaching, one-on-one coaching. I also love writing. I saw Dr. Tiffany, you love writing too, writing your books. I love writing. So I have a blog, and you can learn more and all about that at drsuemccreadie.com. So drsuemccreadie.com.
Awesome. And listeners, we will have her information in the show notes, so you'll be able to go right to her and be able to find out more about her coaching, and you just be able to see transformation that is happening even in the other people that she has been working with. And so again, Dr. Sue, thank you for being a part today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Tiffany.
Thank you. And listeners, until next time, God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Tasty Tidbits. If you're enjoying the show, feel free to subscribe, rate, and share with your friends. To learn more about Dr. Tiffany, check her out on Linktree at dr.tiffanywatkins or visit her website, iridescencebytiffany.com. Until next time, stay blessed.